Week 14 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few tight ends I looked to hit off the wire this week. The first guy, Noah Fant of the Seattle Seahawks. Fant, over the last few weeks, he's starting to get it going now in his first season in Seattle. In Week 13, a great game at the Rams. 4 catches, 42 yards, and a touchdown. So right here, this offense is moving. They're spreading the ball around as Geno Smith with another good game and a good victory at the Los Angeles Rams. In Week 14, they got a good matchup versus the Carolina Panthers. So the last few games here for Fant: Week 10 at Tampa, 3 catches, 34 yards. Week 12 versus Vegas, 3 catches, 34 yards. And then, like I mentioned, Week 13 at the Rams, 4 catches, 42 yards, and a touchdown. So tight end, we know all season's been one of the worst positions, and the worst it's looked in a really long time, besides the Kelseys, the Andrews, and the Kittles and Hawkinsons. Besides that, guys have been inconsistent and not putting up numbers week in and week out. And even those guys as well have had a couple down games. But right now, Noah Fant available in 87% of leagues here. And he's a tight end I look to get. The next guy, Greg Dulcich of the Denver Broncos. So Dulcich, he had the first 3 weeks back from injury in his rookie year here, 6 to week 8. Double-digit fantasy points. And then the last few weeks here before Week 13 re-emerging, he didn't do much. Week 10 at Tennessee, 1 catch, 11 yards. Week 11 versus the Raiders, 4 catches, 30 yards. Week 12 at Carolina, 2 catches, 11 yards. And Week 13 at Baltimore, 6 catches, 85 yards. So right here, Week 14, it's going to be a ball game where they're going to be chasing points early and often, obviously, as Denver versus the Kansas City Chiefs, especially after losing to the Bengals here. You know the Chiefs are going to come out like gangbusters in that ball game and get off to an early start. So Dulcich right now available in tons of fantasy leagues at 63%. And at least he's a guy that Russell Wilson's been targeting, and now if Sutton's out, more targets should go Dulcich's way. So I would give him an ad this week. The next guy, Evan Ingram of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Evan Ingram, another guy up and down this season, where I mentioned to drop him a few weeks ago, but he's now back on the radar. And this Jaguar offense has been playing some decent football over the last few weeks here. Week 10 at Kansas City, 3 catches, 14 yards. Week 12 versus Baltimore, catch 4 yards. And then Week 13 at Detroit, 5 catches, 30 yards, a touchdown on 7 targets. So Week 14, a middle-of-the-pack matchup at the Titans here that give up the 13th most fantasy points to tight ends on the season. And right here, Evan Ingram, we know he's a playmaker. He could go out there and make some plays. But he's a guy with air off the wire, but not a guy I'm right away going to put in my lineup unless I have no other option. So right now, Ingram, he's available in 57% of fantasy leagues. And I give him an ad this week. The next guy, McCole Pruitt, and the Falcons. So Pruitt, he's been the starter now over the last couple weeks. Obviously, since Kyle Pitts has gone down with the injury. And Week 12 of Washington, 2 catches, 9 yards, a touchdown. And Week 13 versus Pittsburgh, 1 catch, 7 yards, and a touchdown. So right here, Pruitt, he's finding the end zone with those goal line, red zone opportunities here for this Atlanta Falcon team. And obviously, he's a guy only in the deepest of leagues I looked at, and also going on by as well in Week 14. Out there in 100% of fantasy leagues here is Pruitt. And he's been a touchdown maker so far for this Falcon team. And the 5th and final tight end I look to get on the wire this week's Daniel Bellinger of the New York Giants. So Bellinger finally back after that scary injury with his eye socket coming out here. So Bellinger back in the ball game in Week 13 versus Washington, 5 catches, 24 yards. And he had a decent span early in the season before he went out. Week 5 at Green Bay, 2 catches, 22 yards, and a rushing touchdown. Week 6 versus Baltimore, 5 catches, 38 yards, and a touchdown. And Week 7 at Jacksonville, that was the game he went out to catch 13 yards. So right here, Daniel Jones liked him early in the season. And Daniel Jones, once again, he liked him in Week 13 versus Washington with the 5 targets. And Bellinger, he's a decent target. He's definitely a guy in the red zone you would target with his size. And right now, if you need tight end in the deepest of leagues, he's available 98% of fantasy leagues. That's a few tight ends I look to add on the wire for Week 14 of the fantasy football season.